Hello and welcome everybody to Office Hours. It is Tuesday, March 2nd. Hard to believe we've been in March for a year now, but here we are. And I welcome all of you to our Office Hours. Zella, good to see you. John Crawford is here. Sony Base Tester Pro. I haven't seen you on here before, but I'm glad you are. John Crawford, thank you for the enthusiasm. It's always good to see folks excited to be here for Office Hours. So as we do every Tuesday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, the point of this session is to spend an hour chatting with all of you about whatever is on your mind. So if you have questions about a specific topic or technology or approach, I would be more than happy to do my best to answer any of your questions. I also have one of these guys right here. This is the new Echo Show 10, which if you haven't seen sitting around, that is the thing. So I'd be happy to talk about that. We spent some time earlier on my own personal stream, which I'm on almost every morning. Last week, we built some APL stuff so that we could make the screen shake and do some stuff like that. So if we want to get into that and play with it, we can. But I'd love to know what's on your mind, what kind of questions you have, and what you're working on yourselves. So let's see what TradeLast is saying here. If user doesn't utter anything with a GetResponse open mic, it triggers a reprompt. But if the other user utters too much, that also triggers a reprompt. I want to be able to distinguish between the two cases and respond appropriately. Reprompt say something versus reprompt don't say so much. The user utters too much also seems variable relative to time. I can count to 20 over 20 seconds and it triggers the right intent, but a shorter random statement triggers a reprompt. It is non-deterministic relative to utterance time. I haven't seen a situation, and I saw you talking about this in the Slack as well, which, by the way, if you guys don't know, you can go to, in your browser, just go to alexa.design/Slack. And there's an entire community. We now have over 500 people in there that are Alexa skill builders and designers and device makers. We would love to have all of you join us there. So alexa.design/Slack, that's where you can get a lot of these questions asked and answered during the week when we're not on office hours. So let's think about TradeLast questions. So this is something that I saw you talk about, but I didn't have a good answer for it then. And as I thought about it, as I dug in to what I thought this problem might be, you're saying that when the user says too much, that it's kicking off the reprompt, which is the behavior you generally only expect when the user hasn't said anything. So just to give a quick example of that for people, let's open up a skill and try that. Alexa, open Games Back.
Handing off to Games Back by Jeff Blankenburg. I've added the entire MLB standings to your screen. What team do you want to know about? Which team would you like to know about?
Cleveland Indians.
The Cleveland Indians are one game back in the American League Central. They are in second place with a record of 35-25. Which team would you like to know about next?
Stop.
Goodbye.
Okay, so that's a simple reprompt, right? So we were able to, in that situation, have it just repeat the same statement. Now I'm going to try the same thing with the same skill, but this time I'm just going to go on and on talking and see what happens. Alexa, open Games Back.
Handing off to Games Back by Jeff Blankenburg. I've added the entire MLB standings to your screen. What team do you want to know about?
I wanted to actually tell you about my breakfast this morning. I had some eggs and bacon, and then I had a little bit of hash browns. I put a little ketchup on them with some salt. And all of that was pretty fantastic. And I don't know how many words I'm actually going to have to give you here, but this seems like an awfully long thing to have to say to a skill when I'm just trying to catch some breaths and give an example and you're still listening to me. And now I'm just going to start listing the teams that I see on the screen: Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Oakland, Braves, Cubs, Dodgers, San Diego, Cardinals, Miami, Houston,
Which team would you like to know about?
Well, look at that, TradeLast. I got the same response. I don't know if you've had to go that long, but that was a lot for me to say.
There are two teams called the Sox. Which team did you want?
Quit. I had to go quite a long time in order to make that happen. But but I don't have a good solution for you, because I don't think that it's going to be able to give me any distinction between those two. But I'm going to take this as a feedback for our product team. So this is something that I'm trying to be much better about. And you guys can see that here on my screen, I actually have a list of questions. And so I've taken trade last's question, and let's just add that here. So let's see if I can get take a little more detail here. Okay, so I have your question mostly captured there. Let's see. So I want to make sure we can get the rest of these. So I think you've recognized that there probably isn't a good answer for this, but I'll talk with the team and see if there's any way that we can identify those separately, because I didn't actually realize that was a thing, and I had to use a lot of words to get to the final reprompt. So I'll have to think about how that specific piece works. All right, so Sony Base Tester Pro says, what can we do with our Alexa if we are bored? Well, there's lots of stuff. There's over 100,000 different things that you can do. And I think that some of the people that are watching here might have some good recommendations for you as well as what you can do. There's an amazing number of games and activities that you can take part in, a lot of adventure stories and stuff like that. My recommendation, honestly, would be to open the Alexa app on your phone and jump into the skills section. And in that skills section, you can search for all sorts of stuff. So search for an adventure game or a trivia game or math activity, or whatever it is you're looking for. There's, like I said, there's well over 100,000 different things that you can do. Another thing, if you're really bored and you want a lifetime of not being bored, try putting some smart home devices in your house. You'll be able to use your devices all the time to turn lights on and off or open and close your garage door. And it'll work 95% of the time, depending on the device you buy. I have a couple devices right now that are really fighting me. And so I'm never bored because I'm constantly trying to figure out why the device isn't online anymore, or whatever that problem might be. So Zella recommends thinking about the fallback intent. I think that's probably a good thing, but it says you have the fallback intent and that's not triggering it. And then there's the fallback intent sensitivity. Excuse me. Allergy season is right around the corner. Have you played around with the fallback intent sensitivity? Yes, I have. But if I set it to higher, it'll likely take my utterances I want to go to the right intent and fall back with them. Yeah, I'm with you, Trade Last. That sensitivity is a tricky thing to play with. So, Rockalock, I've seen your question. You reached out to me directly, and I pointed you to the Slack, and I saw your question there, and it looked like some people offered some help, but it looks like it's still not working. So I think my next step for you is I'm going to have to actually try to build this and see what we get. I'm not going to build that here on stream, but I am going to take your question. And I'm going to follow up on this, and we're going to figure out what exactly is going on. And so maybe by the next office hours, or sooner, maybe if I have time, we'll play with that and see if I can come up with a working sample that does a yearly, excuse me, a yearly reminder. What utterances do you expect if you tested with the NLU evaluation? Also a good question, Zella, is to use the evaluator and see what comes out of there. But as I demonstrated on my stream this morning, sometimes the behavior that you get between the simulator and the NLU evaluation tool and a real live skill where a human is talking can vary pretty greatly sometimes. And so I think these are great ideas. Let's talk about the NLU evaluation. Let's talk about setting the fallback intent sensitivity. I think all of those are pretty good. Let's see. I'm hacking around with open-ended utterances, which Alexa really isn't designed to do. Agreed. So as a user tells a story or converses one sentence at a time, it does emotion analysis on the utterances. Interesting. So you're using, I assume this is the search query slot that you're using, Trade Last? That could also have a lot to do with why this is happening. Open-endedness adds a whole layer of complexity to things, for sure. And I found some clever ways around fighting it, but it's still one of those things. Like, I have to really want a search query slot in my skill to do it, because if there's another way, I should do the other way. It just has so much gravity. It ends up eating up so many of your utterances and adds a lot of unpredictability to other things that happen. Man, I should not have eaten spicy chili right before I got on here, apparently. Nose is running. I'm gonna have a little of this delicious nectar. So I have your 2 questions in my thing. I don't know that I have any other great answers for you all right now. For Rockalok, I can't get it to work even though I've successfully included weekly and monthly reminders. Here's code for 2, the first yearly that doesn't work and the second weekly that does. I haven't seen any code come through. I don't know if it didn't let you paste that or if you didn't paste it yet. Rockalok, I haven't seen your code yet. So just keep me posted on that. So Trayla says, on this one, I'm actually not using search query. I'm using a slot trained on a number of longer sentences, which usually works for this. I've tried search query using a blank space before the slot in the intent example, and that usually works too. Agreed. I'm using it in my trivia game that I've been working on for all the wrong answers. The problem with that is that there are times where it catches things that I don't expect it to, especially if especially because I'm live streaming and when I'm talking, I might say, give me a science question. And then I turn back to the audience and I keep talking. Well, it hears all of that as one utterance and it doesn't hear the give me a science question by itself. And so it repeats back to the user, hey, I don't know what to do with give me a science question. It's, it goes on and on and on. So it treats that as a search query and then it doesn't know what to do with that data. Question 2, SoundBank URL audios don't work in progressive responses. I see on the forum that it's been acknowledged for a couple of years as this is currently on the team backlog. Any update on if this is in the works? Well, I can bet if it's there a couple of years, that is in fact probably not actively being worked on, but these are the kind of things that need to be in front of the product team. And I want to let you guys know the questions and the feedback that I'm gathering right here. All of this stuff is being handed directly to our product team. So on a monthly basis, we create a report. It's not just office hours. There's a number of sources that this stuff comes from, but this is one of the core ones. And we want to make sure that everybody has the ability to get their feedback in front of the product team. Now, we go through an entire rigorous kind of subjective, objective rating system. So, and then we prioritize the ones that rise the highest. But I want to let you guys know that all of your feedback, all of the information that we gather from these office hours, this stuff does make it directly to the product team. So don't feel like you're yelling into an empty box, though it may feel that way sometimes. We get it on their roadmap. They already are locked and loaded for what they're delivering, for example, for Alexa Live, which is coming up in July. So it's unlikely that they're going to add new things that are going to happen in the next few months. But that being said, this kind of information, this kind of weight that you guys give it by participating in this chat, this is an excellent way to be able to let them know exactly what's important to you. And if it keeps showing up and it keeps being added, that's a good thing. There's also, if you guys are looking for this, I feel like I have boogers all over my face. I don't think I do, but I feel like I do. I'll let you guys inspect for me. Another good place to go, I'm going to bring this tab down, is alexa.uservoice.com. If you guys haven't been here, highly recommended. I'm going to pop that up on the screen for a second. Alexa.uservoice.com. And the point of this website is to give you an opportunity.
Sorry, I don't know that.
I know. The opportunity to give your voice directly to our product team. People can come in and rate and review these things and add comments. You can see that the #1 thing right now is Russian support. That's the thing that is the most voted up. But as you look through this list, and especially as you search, I think you'll find pretty quickly that a lot of the things that you want are here and just need to be voted up a little bit. So I just want to let you guys know that that's there. And if you're not using user voice, you should be. Can you use an Echo Dot as a speaker with Bluetooth or aux? Steve Nelson and Sony Bass Tester Pro ask. So there is not a way. There's not a way today on any Amazon-made Echo device. I can't speak for non-Amazon-made ones. There's thousands of them out there, and I don't know what they all do. But for all of the Amazon-made Echo devices, there is not a way to run an aux cable in and be able to use that, like put speaker output there. That being said, a lot of the Echo Dots, if not all of the Echo Dots, have an aux out, which would allow you to use your Echo Dot through another speaker system. But you want to use Alexa as the speaker for your PS4. So the only option you have there is to go Bluetooth. And I don't know if the PS4 has Bluetooth audio out, but there is not a way to run audio with a cable through an Echo. I don't believe that there's any way. Like I said, these, if I pull out any of these Echo Dots, grab this one. You can see that on the back of these, there is, come on, focus. Come on, focus. You can do it. There it is. So you can see that there is an aux input on the back of an Echo. This is an older one, but they all have it. And that spot is only an out. It's not an in. So there is, the answer to your question directly is no, there is not a way. I made a mistake. Plug that in later. There is not a way to run audio into the speaker. But that being said, you can do it with Bluetooth. So you can pair any of your devices to an Echo and get Bluetooth audio. And so I don't know if the PS4 offers that or not. I'm an Xbox house, so I don't have a PS4 to even try it with. Given that Alexa Conversations is now GA, is there any concrete plan for support in other languages, specifically Spanish? Even if it's no plan that would help with the current decision, thanks. Yes. Tap 5T3R, Taps. We're going to go with Tapster. I think that's what you're meaning that to be. Tapster, while I don't have an official timeline at all, I can tell you that our plan for everything is to be in every language, every locale, every country, always. And so when something goes GA, that should generally be a good indication to you that that is in the relatively near-term plans. I say relative because it could be a year, it could be 18 months. I don't know the real answer. But I do know that for something to GA, that's a big deal. There are lots of features that we roll out that never make it out of beta. And if it made it to GA, that's a really good sign. So because it's a GA, I have to imagine there is a part of the roadmap somewhere that says Spanish, German, French, Japanese, whatever. What I don't have any knowledge of is when that stuff would happen. So hopefully that helps you with your approach and your thought process. But I don't have any really solid answers for you on this. Okay, let's see. Can take that off the screen, I guess. So let me add this to the comments and questions. I want to make sure I get these. So Tapster, you made the leaderboard. Get that into my notes here. See it there on the screen. And I'll add Purisami. I don't know which way you want that pronounced, but I'll add that to as well. Is Alexa following the timbre to avoid other people talking? Metascape, I will tell you that no, that is highly unlikely. So to be able to manage timbre or monitor any of that kind of emotion detection or anything would require a lot more processing that is actually possible on the device itself. So the device really doesn't do much of anything. Everything happens in the cloud. And so for it to decide when to stop listening, when to stop recording, would require it to have all of that knowledge baked into the device, which it does not. So there is no timbre detection or emotion detection or any kind of tone evaluation. All it's doing is recording with a microphone. To do any of that kind of evaluation would have to happen on the cloud, but because it's not even picking it up and grabbing that as a response, we know that that's not actually happening on the device. It's not able to detect timbre or anything like that because that only happens in the cloud. So hopefully that answers your question. Cobra0514 says, hey, Jeff, I got a question about local debugging with the Alexa hosted skill. I've been trying to work with DynamoDB for persistence. I get an error with ever testing locally, but works just fine when I commit it to the Alexa repo. The error is regarding table name not found. I've tried adding the DynamoDB table name and region to an env file, but I get a resource not found error. I'm going to add this to my list, but I actually haven't done, and I've specifically avoided doing Alexa hosted local debugging because I've run into a bunch of weird errors like this. So let me add this to the list of things that I'm going to talk to my team about. But I don't have a magic button for you on this one. But it seems like it should just work. I mean, Dynamo is Dynamo, and it's a cloud service that you're talking to your database with. So I feel like this shouldn't be a complicated answer. And it's weird that you're getting table name not found. That makes me feel like maybe you haven't connected a persistence adapter properly, but you said it works just fine when it's in your actual Lambda. So that's ruling that out for me. You guys have some awesome questions, and really, this does help our team quite a lot to understand what you guys run into. But I don't know how to answer this one. I've been trying to work with Dynamo for persistence. I get an error when testing locally, but it works just fine when I commit to the Alexa repo. The error is regarding table name not found. I've tried adding the Dynamo table name and region to an env file, but I get the resource not found error. Zella, that's an interesting approach. Back to Trey's last question about slots and utterances. You have 3 slots in your skill. 1 slot for all answers that consist of 1 word, 1 slot for answers that consist of 2 words, and 1 slot for answers that consist of many words, and then different intents and utterances. I could reduce the error rate to a minimum with that. Very interesting. It's an interesting debugging tool to just kind of be able to plug that stuff in. This seems like another thing for APL Ninja. I mean, it's not really an APL thing, but it feels like this would be a cool thing to have as a tool for like other debugging tools that are available to developers. Like, hey, I want to just drop this thing in here and try it. Kind of like the APL doc you gave me that has the square on it that rotates as the screen rotates. But I feel like there's a bunch of like cool kinds of intents. Oh, let's see, Menescape. Let me get back here. Thanks. I meant in the cloud. What if 2 people are talking, one with Alexa and the other is in interference, and both are recorded by the device? Is Alexa able to understand the question? So the answer to this question is it depends, which is my favorite answer to everything. But generally, yes, it is able to understand. And so it can generally recognize when there are multiple speakers, which one is speaking. But it's based more on direction because there's an array of microphones. I think it's based much more on the direction that the sound is coming from than it is any timbre or sound or voice profile or anything like that. Because all the voice profiling, all of that stuff is done in the cloud. So it doesn't really know who's speaking until it sends it to the cloud and gets it back and says, oh, that was Carl or whatever. But I think directionally it can tell like, oh, I'm listening in this direction. And that's the same way when I talk to this device. If we come over here and I say, Alexa, it knows where I am, right? It's looking my direction. And if I come way over here, Alexa, follow me.
Following is now on.
So this device has 2 things that it does. The first one is that it's using the camera to recognize the shape of a human. It's not my face or anything like that, but it's the shape. And so as it follows me, I can continue to move and it'll continue to follow me. But Alexa, stop following me.
Following is now off for the rest of this activity.
Okay. And so then if I come over here and I say, Alexa, it can still recognize where my voice was coming from. And so that stuff has to be on board. It has to recognize which microphone is hearing me the best. And I think it's
I'm glad you asked. I can help with morning activities.
Alexa,
relaxation.
Stop. So it's able to rotate and listen to what direction my voice is coming from. So I think more than anything, Menescape, that's what it's using to be able to identify which user is speaking and which one is just noise. That's something that's been true since the early days of Alexa, where we had what do we call it? I can't remember the term that we use for this, but it's basically as soon as you start talking, it recognizes that you're talking from over here. And so then it says, okay, I'm going to focus all of my effort on this. And all of the other microphones, basically, it tries to cancel out any noise that those pick up so that it's only focusing on the voice that it was initially called by. And so that's how that piece works. So Metascape, hopefully that helps answer. Once we get to the cloud, though, yeah, we can do things like voice profiling where we can actually differentiate different voices. We can even recognize. So like if I say, Alexa, who am I?
Jeff is speaking. This is Jeff's account.
So what it's doing there is it's giving me two pieces of information. The first one, Jeff is speaking. It's recognizing my voice. And it's saying, oh, you sound like Jeff. The second piece that it says is you're in Jeff's account because these devices are set up on my account. But if my wife came in here and she said, who am I? It would say, oh, you're Sarah, but you're on Jeff's account, right? Because it knows that which account it is and who is speaking. So that is that's how that awesome device works. And one of the other cool things that device is capable of is a bunch of what we call choreographies. And so for my trivia game, when you get a question wrong, it actually takes the screen and kind of shakes it side to side like it's saying no, like you got the answer wrong. So I think there's 4 or 5 different choreographies that you can do using APL to make the screen kind of move around and do things. Anyway, that's a long story about how we recognize two people are talking, but hopefully that helps. Okay, I'm going to add this one last piece, make sure I get all my notes here for Cobra's issue. Let's see. Traylast, I completely agree with you. You said, I think that with any of these approaches, it's still a matter of Alexa's treatment of long utterances in its input processing before it ever gets to intent resolution. Agreed. And that's something that we're going to have to look into. So that's why I have all of your questions here. And I'm going to dig into this and we'll figure out what's going on. Magdil Terespa says, I love to say, Alexa, stop with that serious voice. Sometimes you have to. You have to be stern. Alexa, stop. It's the only way. Also, a little secret for all of you, if you didn't know this, stop is a command that a skill can catch and take action on. Usually it means quit, but it doesn't always mean that. And they could still respond back to you or whatever. But the word quit is an auto exit. And so as an example, let me show you. Alexa, open Games Back.
Handing off to Games Back by Jeff Blankenburg.
Alexa,
I've added the entire...
Stop.
Goodbye.
So you see how she recognized goodbye and she was able to respond to me, even though I said stop? Tradelast, you're right. Exit is also an auto exit. But let's try quit this time. Alexa, open Games Back.
Handing off to Games Back by Jeff Blankenburg. I've added the entire MLB standings to your screen.
Alexa,
what team do you...
Quit.
I've added the entire
Alexa,
MLB standings.
Quit. There we go. So I don't know what happened the first time, but when you say quit or exit, that will auto-exit the skill without giving it any chance to respond or do anything else. Magdal Terespa says, is there any way to set up Alexa to just respond to one single person? Unfortunately, no. Devices are meant to be communal and public in common areas of your home. But that being said, you can set it up so that certain things are only allowed with your voice, like purchases. So you can control the more secure things by saying only this voice is allowed to do it. But it's on a case-by-case basis. And in general, anybody can walk up and say, Alexa, bark. Right? So anyone's going to be able to do that anytime with your device. But I just want to let you know, like there's not a way where you could prevent the device from even listening to you if you set it to a specific voice. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, Trade Last mentions you can still do skill cleanup. You still do get a response in your skill but it's a session ended request. It allows you to like clean anything up or move some data or do whatever, but you can't respond. OxygenBox says his Echo 10 keeps rotating, looking for my voice every time I say the word. Yeah, I apologize for that. By the way, OxygenBox, you've had it most of the weekend. How's your device working out for you? I'm just curious what your experience has been. If it's been good, positive. I know you wanted to play around with some of the choreographies. Love to know what your initial take is on it. I've really liked the device so far, and it's really well made. I like the form factor. It's not too big, not too small. All right, Rakalok, sorry, man. I don't think that I'm frozen. It seems like it might be on your end, but it sounds like you're having trouble with your connection. I did not get to your question about the yearly reminder. My response was, I've written it down. I'm going to talk to the product team, and I'm going to try and build myself a little demo just to see if I can get it to work and see if there's. I mean, based on the stuff that I've seen you post in Slack and other things, your code looks solid, so I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. But I'll try to throw together a little demo and see if I can make it work. And if not, then we have a bigger issue. But that's something for me to explore a little bit, but not something I can do live right this second. But we'll dig into it for sure. All right, we're halfway through. We've made it halfway through the office hours. So Laldi Labs, this is a good question. And a lot of people may not even know that this exists regarding devices in public. I had someone ask about things you need to consider if leaving a personal device in an Airbnb, for instance. Are there any resources on that, locking down a device for that use case like Alexa for Hospitality might do on a bigger scale? Well, I'm pretty sure that Alexa for Hospitality is something that you could use even on a small scale. So I would specifically look into that because Alexa for Hospitality, I think it's a different set of firmware or controls. I'm not sure exactly how it affects the device, but it would allow you to then set up a device safely. But I would not ever set up your personal device in an Airbnb. Most things are blocked by a simple PIN. There's no 3 tries and you're out kind of scenario, which means that you could have somebody in an Airbnb spend a couple hours really, and they could guess your PIN eventually because there's 10,000 options, right? It's a 4-digit PIN. So you've got from 0000 to 9999. You should at least set it up on a separate account that doesn't have any credit cards or anything else set up that they could potentially buy stuff with. But I think Alexa for Hospitality is the right approach very specifically for this scenario, because if you're talking about building it into an Airbnb or a hotel room or a hospital room or a assisted living facility, in any of those kinds of cases, unless the user themselves owns the device and can set up and configure everything, you should use something like Alexa for Hospitality to handle that. Zella says, I got to just start calling you Alex. I have built an alarm clock skill that is started by a routine. My plan was to give the user a math thought question when he wants to quit the skill and only quit the skill if he gives the correct answer. Oh, that's a clever idea. Unfortunately, quit and exit will always let them out, but it is a cool idea. Oh, nice. OxygenBox. Let me fix that right now. You're calling me out for not committing my code to GitHub. APL motion updated. Minor fixes included. My apologies for that. I didn't push my code up over the weekend. You should have said something. It's there now. So all of my code has been added to my GitHub. Laldi makes a good point. But yeah, that would be kind of cool to be able to build something where they can't quit. But you can see how that would be exploited pretty quickly for people that want to keep you in their skill and keep you using it. So we have to give people a way out. But I like the idea. All right, what else have we got? Alex, while I have you on here, I was looking at APL Ninja earlier today. Let's see if I can get back to show you guys this for a second. If you guys haven't been to APL Ninja, Alex has put together a fantastic website that like gives you all sorts of interesting things to look at and play with. But I have this leaderboard that I want to build into my trivia game. And it looks like this. This is what place you're currently in. And then it has a grid. I was wondering, it doesn't look like you actually built this one, but I would love to know if there's a limit on the number of people that can be added to this list, or if I just pass it the top 5 plus what place the user's in. And I'll have to play with this. Sony Base Tester had another question on YouTube. Can Alexa locate friends, or can you control your house with your Alexa in the app? Those feel like two very separate questions, but can you control your house with the Alexa in the app? Yes, the Alexa app itself is a device itself. So if you want to use Alexa, and let's say you don't have the funds to go buy yourself a device, you can download the Alexa app for free on your phone. And with that, you can control everything that you would normally control. It has voice recognition, so you can talk to it just like you would talk to any other device. They have a keyboard mode if you want to type to it instead of talking to it when you're standing in the line at the grocery store or something. And it even has like button controls for all of your smart home devices. So yes, the Alexa app is perfect for that kind of stuff. The other part you had was, can Alexa locate friends? Now, this sounds like a cry for help. Sony Base Tester Pro, do you need some friends? I don't actually mean that. I'm sure that you have some friends, but it cannot locate friends in that, like, where are they currently? Like, you know, if we, my family, we have it set up on our phone so we can like look at a map and see exactly where each other is, which has come in handy so many times. But it doesn't have the ability to identify and locate friends or what like their GPS locations are. Is that kind of what you mean? I want to make sure that I'm being clear on your question. Locate friends is a little vague. Will the Alexa app for phone ever support APL? Trade last. Here's my answer to that question. Yes. Ever. At some point. In the future, probably. I think. Maybe. You know, obviously I can't talk about specific roadmap or timelines. I don't have any idea what their plans are for that, but I have to imagine that APL support, the way it's growing and the emphasis that we're putting on it, putting it in the app has to be a high priority. I don't know when, but I'm certain at some point in the future, maybe 10 years, that will be true for sure. Like, people linked with my Alexa through the app. Yeah, like, again, if you're still looking for physical locations of people, that seems unlikely. But if you want to, I know that the Alexa devices themselves can tell you when your friends are home, because the devices themselves will recognize, like, oh, all the time my device will tell me that Dan's home. It's my buddy Dan, and we have it all set up to be able to talk to each other. What's cool about that is that it tells me that Dan's home, and like if I wanted to call him right now on his device, that would be super handy. But that's about as close to being able to locate a user as you're really going to get. Knowing their addresses or knowing their current location, none of that stuff is currently available. Yeah, no, Sony Base Tester, I totally get what you're asking. Like, even if they turn their GPS and 4G and all that stuff on, it's just not something that we specifically grant. Now, that being said, an Alexa skill that someone built could exist. I don't know if there is one that exists. Or this is something that you could build yourself if you had access to that data. The problem is most of that location data is pretty locked down. I mean, I think about, like, even on my iPhone, right? My wife and my children can check my location, but nobody else can. And I can't build an app. I guess I could build an app on my phone that would get the location data, and then I could feed that out to something else. But I think it would be a lot of work. You kind of want the native functionality to just work, and I don't think that that's going to be easily accessible, unfortunately. I think it's an awesome idea, but no, I don't believe that is something that's easily done today. All right, Zella, good. I don't know that I want to put more in there, but I was thinking like 10, 15, 20 might be good. But eventually, you know, when my trivia game blows up and I've got thousands of users, it would be kind of cool to be able to show the whole list from top to bottom. I probably won't do that, but it would be cool. It's a lot of data. My goodness, have you guys had this stuff? Let's see if I can get that on the screen. Maybe. Mountain Dew Zero Sugar melon flavored. It is fantastic. Whew, it's so good. Okay, by the way, Mountain Dew, I'm taking sponsors. Okay, so I have a skill that will hopefully do this soon. Locate a user if they participate. Right now, it saves your position on demand, and you can share that by email, hoping to improve on this in the next drop. Right now, it saves your position on demand because for the location data devices, the Echo Auto, and I think it's only the Echo Auto, can know your actual GPS location. And so you could record that every time they talk to the skill. And then if somebody asked where they were, then you could hold on to that. But they would have to be talking to your skill. And then, man, that's a tricky one. I see where you're going with it, Aldi, but it feels like you got to have a pretty contrived scenario for that to work. This is where, here, let's get up on my soapbox. The phone app now enables that because it did not. So that's good to know that the phone app now supports the geolocation feature because it didn't originally. I didn't realize that they'd update that. That's great. Here's my soapbox. If data was more accessible, available, usable, all of these kinds of experiences would be built. The problem we have today is that so much data is just not available in any kind of structured format. One example of this is Star Wars data. I have built a skill. I have not finished it. I've not published it. No, I take that back. I did publish it, but I haven't finished it. There's still big holes in the data because there's just so much going on. No problem at all, Sony-based Tester Pro. Happy you asked. Don't apologize. If we could find mechanisms to make the data that already exists more accessible to everyone, God, our worlds would be so cool and interesting. But there's there almost needs to be a revolution in how data is exposed, especially stuff that doesn't matter, like Star Wars data, right? There's nothing private or proprietary or secret about that. There's tons of websites that have all sorts of data. It's just not in a consumable format. So what we need is all of the data to be in a consumable format. That's what we need. I can't wait for that day because, man, it's going to be cool. The things that we'll be able to do. I know I talk about baseball cards on here occasionally, but I really, really would love the ability to know everything about every baseball card. It's not that hard. It all exists. I want to know. Here's a good example. This is a card from a kid named Ryan Mountcastle. It's gorgeous, right? It's got like that cool, like rainbowy reflective background. This card exists, right? So it has a number, it has stats on the back, all sorts of stuff on there. And as I think about this card, there's actually like 9 variations of this card. And I would love to know what they all are. But I would also like to know what all the other Ryan Mountcastle cards are. You can see that this is his rookie card. There's a little logo down there in the bottom corner, RC. There's a lot of interesting metadata about this, including what it's currently selling for on eBay, which is where a lot of baseball cards are bought and sold. Imagine having access to all of that data at once and then doing it in some kind of cool way where I actually just hold the card up to the camera and it's like, boom, I know what card that is. Here's how much it costs. Here's, God, that would be amazing. But the amount of data that I need to do that is just astronomical, right? I mean, I personally, in my own collection, have 25,000 different baseball cards. There are easily dozens of millions of different cards. Where am I going to get all that data? I'm not going to hand enter that. I can't curate it from the internet. Although it all exists, there's no easy way for me to find and parse through all that. We got to find a way to make it easy for companies to expose data through APIs, because then things like voice experiences become so much easier and so much more powerful. Okay, off the soapbox. I'll sit back down. I can't wait for that day, though. It's one of those things that I'm eventually going to have to just go build. Let's see what it says when I'm holding trade last. Alexa, what am I holding?
Let's see.
Hello? What do I do this side? Alexa, what am I holding?
Let's see.
Hello? Doesn't like baseball cards? I don't know. Alexa, what am I holding?
Let's see.
I feel like that function just doesn't want to work on that device at all. Let's try a different device and see if it's the device. Alexa, what am I holding?
Let's see. To hear the tutorial again, say Alexa, play the show and tell tutorial. Okay, let's get started. Show me another side. Remember to hold your item about a foot above the countertop and centered with the camera.
What do you got for me?
I read the following words: A, B, Castle, Ryan, Uncasti, Malciezaro, Olays, Arvin, 2. If you'd like to hear the tutorial again, say, Alexa, help on show and tell.
Okay, so there was a couple of things there. First, most of what am I holding is based on reading. So it's just reading what the words it sees on the card. So it kind of found those letters, the Ryan Mountcastle letters. You are holding on to anger and guilt. That is absolutely right today, Oxygen Box, for sure. You are holding your breath. I was kind of holding my breath there. But it works on my Echo Show 5 also. It probably works on that one too. I wonder why it's not working on this. Alexa, what am I holding?
Let's see.
I feel like that's an issue. I'm gonna log that because it seems like the new Echo Show 10 doesn't support this. Okay. Nerdneck said something about GPT-3 should be fun to play with. I don't know what GPT-3 is. I'm going to do a little research right now. GPT-3. OpenAI API. Ooh. I love this. It's an autoregressive language model that uses deep learning to produce human-like text. It is the third generation language prediction model in the GPTN series, created by OpenAI, San Francisco-based artificial intelligence research laboratory. Awesome. Yeah, I know I'm not the only one thinking about this for sure, but being so deep into the voice world, I just know that there's experiences that I could build if I just had the data. The data is the only thing that's missing for me. I'm going to have to go check it out. That's a new project for Jeff, GPT-3. All right, what else you guys got for me? Sony Base Tester Pro says, yeah, eBay is a scam sometimes. I just don't risk it. My experience with eBay, honestly, is that if you're the buyer, you are in full control and you should feel fully safe. If you ever feel like you're getting scammed, just reach out to eBay and be like, hey, this guy scammed me. I've seen people that are legitimate sellers, because I do a bunch of selling on eBay also. People that are legitimate sellers that get scammed by the buyer because they know the buyer is in full power. And so if the buyer says, I didn't receive it, or it was damaged, or whatever, eBay will refund their money from you. They have the ability to do that. So as a buyer, I feel incredibly safe. And I feel great risk every time I sell something, because there's a possibility that the person I sell it to is going to try to rip me off. But I feel no fear in buying on eBay. And the number of baseball cards that I have purchased on eBay over the last 6 months is obscene. Just ask my wife; she will happily tell you all about it. But I've never once ended up in a situation where I felt like I got ripped off at all. And maybe it's because it's baseball cards. Maybe people are more honest there. I'm sure there are plenty of places where you could get scammed. But again, the buyer is always right on eBay. And so I don't think you should have any concern about buying something. If you don't get what you want, or it's not what you expected, tell eBay and they'll get you your money back or make it right. Okay. What else? What else do we got? I need a haircut so bad. You guys seeing this mane? Giant. Like, my hair is gigantic. It's all poofy on the sides. I'm not a very vain person, but it's getting long. TradeLast says Alexa entities get you thinking about how to use linked data. 100%, man. I can't wait for that to launch. I'm going to be all over it. Alexa entities might be my secret access to a lot of the data that I'm looking for. It's limited, right? It's limited to a specific set of. Oh, stop. Alexa, stop. All right, we got 9 minutes. 9 minutes. What's on your mind? What's that thing that's been sitting out there like, man, why haven't they fixed this yet? Or what? Like, give me some stuff that you want the product team to fix or address today. What do you got? TradeLast hasn't had a haircut in 13 months. Oof. I go in double masked. She keeps a great distance while still cutting my hair. Laldi Labs wants some discovery. Well, I know that one. I know that's high on their list. Okay, it's on my list again, though. Clearly, discovery is a big thing that we all want desperately. What else you got? What are there's got to be little nuanced things, little things that as you're building, you're like, man, I wish they would do this. Using analytical psychology as a kind of template for voice interactions. I would need more information there. I mean, I have a degree in psychology, so I certainly understand the core concepts, but I'm trying to figure out how you mean this. Analytical psychology is a kind of template for voice interactions. Interesting. So using Jungian archetypes, got it. That's very interesting. I don't know that I have thoughts on this per se. I think that there is plenty. Once we start getting into things like emotion detection and sentiment analysis, I think that there's a lot of things that we could do, whether that's through things like analytical psychology or just being able to recognize when someone is unhappy or not enjoying your experience. Bossman Snake, thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. Yeah, I think there's a lot we can do once we start digging into that. Oxygen Box, is annotation sets actually new, or has it been around and I hadn't noticed? What should I know about it? Annotation sets, you're talking about the natural language understanding evaluator, NLUL evaluator? Let me see if I can get my browser up here. I think what you're talking about is this. If my browser would cooperate. This page doesn't want to load at all. Annotation sets Oxygen Box has been around for a little bit. We're going to exit the page. It's fine. I don't know why that's all locked up. I would say maybe 6 months, maybe Alexa Live-ish time frame. But what he's talking about, everybody, if you haven't seen this, is in the in here. There's this evaluate model button that's right behind my video. Hold on. There's this evaluate model button that's right here. Take it to there. And if you click on this, there's this ASR evaluation, and you can create these annotation sets, which is exactly what he's seeing here. It's still marked as new, so it's relatively new. But what you're doing in here is you're creating a set of NLU evaluations. So for this one, I might say, give me a science question. Right? And then I say, oh, I expect the intent is going to be question intent And I expect the slot is going to be category. It's going to be science. Like so. If you guys haven't used this, this is basically a way to build a bunch of unit tests before you build your entire interaction model. And then I save this annotation set. I probably have to give it a name. Question. Save this annotation set. And yeah, I don't know if they just moved it over here also, but it's just an easy way to get to it. But then I have my, in the NLU evaluator, I can come into NLU evaluation. I can say, hey, I want to run that set of question annotations. So I run that. And what it's doing is it's going to run all of these individual tests that I create against my interaction model. And it'll tell me whether or not they passed or failed. Now, I only have one, so this should be relatively quick. But this can be a slightly slower process, depending on how many you have. And the thing to remember is that this is only done against your model. This doesn't have any consideration at all for your code. So as I open this up, you can see that, in fact, when it passes the words, give me a science question to my skill, it hits the question intent, it gives a category slot, and the slot's value is science. So it tells me that I've passed on all cases. But if I add another one, let's go back into my annotation sets. Let's add another one. And I say, give me a history question. And here, I expect this to be the question intent also. I expect category to be there, but I expect this to be history. But I'm going to say something like art instead. Right, and we'll save this again. And we'll come in here and we'll try this one more time. We'll just run our evaluation again. And this time when it runs, it should tell me it failed because it's going to show me that what it expected and what it got are different. So let's get this to fail. Now we have two tests in there. Come on. Okay, so we can see that this one failed. I wish it turned it red for me. But in here, you can see that, in fact, it received history, but it expected art. And so this is a nice, easy way to build out all of these tests for how your evaluator should work. This is a great thing for your voice designer to create for you, if those are separate roles in your organization. And then as you're building out your interaction model, you should just make all the tests pass and your interaction model should be good. So this is what the evaluation tool is for. That's what annotation sets are. And the newest feature in this is the ASR evaluation. This allows me to come in and actually create individual recordings. So I could do, give me a science question. Give me a science question. So I now have that recorded. And now I can push recordings against my interaction model. So I can, instead of just typing stuff in, I can use audio that is specifically recorded and formatted to be my utterances. So it's all the same idea. In this case, it says, give me a science question. And I guess we'll call this audio. Save that set. We have our set created. Now I should be able to come in here and I can say audio. Let's run an evaluation and see if we get the right evaluation on this. Now I haven't actually done this before. I knew it exists. But in this case, I'm saying this is the audio and I expect it to hear, give me a science question. So we in fact pass. So this is a great way to test that Alexa is actually doing the text-to-speech that you expect for your specific audio files. So if you want to bring people in that have accents and things like that, you could have a Spanish and a German. They're all speaking English, but they're people that have accents in those other languages. That's also a clever way to do some testing and make sure that Alexa's doing what you expect and whether or not you need to tweak up your interaction model to make it more accommodating. So with that, we are at the end of office hours. This has been a great little wrap up on annotation sets. Rockalok, if you want to tune in, I actually am about to go through this with my actual skill, the trivia game that I've been talking about. The rest of this week, I broadcast almost every single weekday from 10 to noon Eastern time, Monday through Friday. And we're just finishing up this trivia game. So I'm going to be focusing on how do I get all my certification data together and what it looks like to go through that process. So you might want to tune in, give me a follow over there. It is, I'm on Twitch as @Jeff Blankenburg, just like everywhere else. So drop in there, give me a follow, and check it out. Any recommendations for people to follow on Twitter? Man, yeah, there's tons of them. Let me see here. I'll see if I can come up with this really quick. If I come in here and I go to lists, I thought that there was, this is probably a good starter list. Yeah, there's 118 members on this list. So let's take this list. I'll drop this in the chat for everybody. This is a great Twitter list. It's 118 people. It hasn't been updated recently, but this is Steve Nelson. He's here on the chat. He's here on the thing. And there's lots of great people in this list to check out. So check out his list. You can just subscribe to the list. Honestly, you don't have to follow the people directly. Instead, you could just follow this list, and then it's like following all 118 people on that list. So it's up to you how you want to do it, but you can also come into each individual person and follow them that way if you'd like. But anyway, that is it for office hours today. This has been awesome. What kind of testing they do? I've had 24 certified over. Oh, I got you, Rockalock. So you've been through this plenty. Yeah, I can walk you through that. I think a lot of the tests I can actually show you here. If you come into certification, there is this validation test that runs. This is this is pretty much the same tools that they're using internally. And so this testing stuff that you see here, this validation, is a lot of what they use. And then they have the certification guidelines. I'm sure everyone is also familiar with. And in the certification guidelines, if you can go through the policy guidelines and security requirements and functional tests, if you can go through all of this, this is pretty much all you need. If you can pass all the tests that are automated in the dev portal, and you can pass all of these checklists, so like if I come into functional tests, this is a little more specific. Actually, this isn't even what I want. I want the policy guidelines. This is a good one for you to go through. We should make a checklist for this. But like what this basically says is your skill will be ejected if any of the things that I'm about to cover are true, your skill will fail. And so you should be able to walk through these and be like, oh, does mine do this? Does mine do this? Does it offer a separate skill store? If it does, you're going to fail. So I would recommend going through all of these categories to make sure that you're not doing this stuff, because those are the rules. And we try to be very clear and transparent about these rules. So if you can go through this entire list and you feel like, yes, I check all of these boxes, you should get through certification on your first try. Should be no doubt. Aju Matthew wants to know if there's going to be a new AWS certification for Alexa skill building. I don't believe so, at least not currently. Should I create an Alexa project in VS Code or build from the Alexa portal? Girish, it's actually up to you. And because of the Alexa toolkit here, this Alexa skills toolkit, you can actually create it in one place and then download a skill. So I can come into this toolkit and I could say download and edit a skill, and it'll come into here and give me a list of all the skills that I have in the portal. So it's entirely up to you. You can jump back and forth. They make it pretty easy. I'm waiting for it to get my list of skills. It's rather lengthy. But if I say something like Star Wars, that'll make its life easier. So I have this Star Wars databank skill. So it finds this. This is a list of my actual skills. I can click on this and it will download all of the things I need to work here locally. So you should be able to jump from top to bottom or bottom to top. It doesn't matter. But yeah, do it where you're comfortable. If you like the dev portal, work there. If you like working in VS Code, work there. I think it's more a preference thing than anything at this point. All right, I do have to sign off. Thank you guys all for tuning in. It is absolutely my pleasure that I get to stand in front of you and answer your questions and hear your feedback. And I will be delivering this to the product team. So I really do appreciate your time and energy and concern. It's awesome to have you all here. I will talk to you all very, very soon. Gear says, how can I jump from one intent to the other intent? I don't know that answer to that question. By passing in different utterances, I guess, using the testing tool. Girish, I'm at Jeff Blankenburg everywhere. Find me on Twitter or Twitch or whatever. I'd be happy to follow up with this with you, but I do have to go. Thank you guys all so much. I'll see you soon.